Shall we get right into it?
Absolutely. I've been
All right.
seeing the tweets, but you're going to be able to tell me better than anyone else. So go ahead, sir.
Okay, so obviously this centers around Jake Paul, Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford, and Turki Alalshikh, but there are other players involved as well. Following the success of Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, and what I mean by success, I mean the amount of attention and viewers and business that it generated. Um, the attention was then turned to a fight between Jake Paul and Canelo Alvarez sometime in 2025. And so, as I reported yesterday, in the midst of all of this, those talks were a very real thing, and they were moving along. It wasn't just a pie in the sky idea. You know, we were kind of going through footage, mainly my guy Spencer, who does a tremendous job on our social media, of all the times Jake Paul had talked about Canelo really since the Tyron Woodley fight, the first one, dating back to the summer of 2021. And there are numerous occasions where he says, in 2-3 years, I'm going to fight Canelo. And there are numerous occasions where Canelo is asked about Jake Paul and he laughs it off. And he says, come on, guys, ask me a serious question. And media would laugh it off, but he stuck to it. And even, you know, the week of the Tyson fight, he was talking about Canelo Alvarez. And so following that fight, that's where they turned their attention. And finally, there appeared to be interest on the side of Canelo. Now, Canelo has made no bones about the fact that he is a businessman. Payday, payday. That's what he always says, right? If you're going to pay me, if you're going to sign a big fat check and give it to me, I'm in. Eddie Hearn mentioned that earlier this week when talking to the media in the UK. Canelo Alvarez has no loyalty whatsoever, and he is very open about this. He just goes where the money is, and that's not a knock on him. He's a prize fighter, and he should do that because this game is going to end for him at some time, maybe in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and so he needs to get the most amount of money possible. And so this is happening. This is happening. These two guys are talking, the two entities are talking, and they're moving towards a potential showdown in May, Cinco de Mayo weekend. At the same time as all of this, there is great interest from Turki Alalshikh and Riyadh season to put on a Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford fight. So these two conversations are happening somewhat in parallel. One has nothing to do with the other. MVP has nothing to do with Riyadh season. Riyadh season has nothing to do with MVP. But there's a guy in the middle, Canelo Alvarez, who's kind of talking to both entities. Now, my understanding is, as far as MVP is concerned, they didn't really care about the Terence Crawford fight. One fight's happening in May. One fight is scheduled to happen in September. I did get the impression, and this came to light last night, that let's just say the Riyadh season side of things weren't too keen on the guy who they're about to pay a ton of money to fight Terence Crawford in a football stadium in September is going to then go down this sort of, you know, different path against Jake Paul. Because let's be honest to the public, and you saw this when the stories really started to come to a head yesterday, if you're taking a Jake Paul fight when you've got a potential showdown with Crawford, a fight that everyone wants to see against David Benavidez, a potential rematch with Dimitri Bivol down the line, the fans start to view you in a different light, and there's a backlash there. And so the side in September was saying, like, we don't love this. But at the same time, these two things were happening. On Monday, we get a report from The Ring, which, let's be honest, owned by Turki Alalshikh. He doesn't hide this. They made a big announcement. They had a big gala. Everyone knows what it is. When they come out and say Canelo versus Terence Crawford is close to being done, you take that as gospel because, of course, it's essentially coming from him. He owns the outlet, right? It's like back in the day when The Ring was owned by Oscar De La Hoya. When they would report on Golden Boy things, you knew it was pretty much a done deal. And so after that, the Jake Paul Canelo stuff started to come out. And then after that came out, we had the Allegiant Stadium story come out. And September 13th, more color to this Crawford fight. So it almost felt like this tit for tat was going on. All right, that's Monday, that's Tuesday, that's Wednesday. Eddie Hearn is starting to talk about done deal. It wasn't a done deal. It was never signed, sealed, and delivered. It was just all part of these negotiations. The Jake Paul side saying, like, we're cool. Let's get the May fight done. You do your business afterwards. This side saying, we're not really too keen on this May one. Just focus on what we're trying to do here. No one's the bad guy here, but there's just two different interests, two different POVs. Yesterday, everything blows up. First, it's the Eddie Hearn talks, right? Eddie Hearn is saying, I hear it's a done deal. Okay, it wasn't a done deal. Then you start to hear that Turki Alalshikh has taken the Canelo Crawford fight off the table, and now he's going to start to focus on a Crawford Boots Ennis fight in September. Now, Boots Ennis is fighting a really tough guy named Emantas Stanionis on April 12th in Atlantic City. Don't know how much credence there was to that. He has to get by that fight first, Terence Crawford, before focusing on a Canelo Alvarez fight. But this all felt to me like a bit of gamesmanship. So all of a sudden, this becomes an announcement. All right, then we hear that the fight is done. And then we go, I'll be honest, I go to bed at like 10:30 after celebrating Josh Allen winning the MVP award like a pig in shit.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And then I wake up in the middle of the night to a litany of texts and phone calls and things of that nature saying that the Jake Paul fight is off, that at the 11th hour, there was a change of heart, and now Canelo Alvarez is going in the direction of Turki Alalshikh, that he's agreed to this 4-fight deal, that he's going to fight in May, that he's going to fight maybe Bruno Saras, who had the huge upset in December over Jaime Munguia, or Jermell Charlo, and then in September fight Crawford, and then 2 more fights. And now he has essentially left the Jake Paul negotiations and is fully on Turki Alalshikh. That's essentially, on his side and teaming up with Riyadh Season. That's essentially what we've been told. I will tell you this, there was no 11th hour change of heart. It wasn't like Canelo Alvarez was sitting at a table yesterday on Thursday with a gun to his head saying, you got to pick one. You got to. No, that was a little bit of, I don't want to say misreporting, but I'll say misreporting. There was no 11th hour change of heart. He had 2 options. One side said, we're okay with both options. The other side said, nah, we're not too keen. Come with us. And as a result of this option being here, this side over here, meaning the Riyadh Season side, essentially upped the ante. And so did Canelo use Jake Paul? I don't think that's a fair thing. I think he wanted both options. But the fact that there was the Jake Paul fight there only made them up the ante and sort of like sweeten the pot to not just a Terence Crawford fight, but to this 4-fight mega deal that he has now agreed to with Turki Alalshikh. And so as you can tell, MVP not happy with it, Jake Paul not happy with it. This morning, Most Valuable Promotions posting a statement essentially saying that, there was talks, there wasn't a negotiation going on. I think we have the statement. We could show it now if we have it. This was a real thing, but we're moving on. Here it is for everyone to read, and it's a pretty aggressive statement. MVP was in deep negotiations for a blockbuster fight between Jake Paul and Canelo Alvarez on Cinco de Mayo weekend in Las Vegas. We know this, a massive event for the Mexican, Puerto Rican, and American fans, and it's disappointing to see how the situation unfolded. MVP operates with integrity, transparency, and respect for the sport, its athletes, and the fans. Unfortunately, not everyone in the boxing world shares those values. The situation is a reminder not to believe everything you read, especially when the current media environment is often controlled by those with hidden agendas, including promoters who have reporters on their payroll. I have no knowledge of this. I don't know what they're getting at there, but clearly there's some feelings here. We remain in active discussions with multiple high-profile opponents and are committed to delivering the biggest fights, the most exciting events, and to working with partners who share our values and our commitment to boxing and its fighters. Jake Paul isn't going anywhere. Neither is MVP. We'll continue to disrupt boxing on our terms. Last night, Turki Alalshikh posted a video, celebrating the fact that he got this deal done and perhaps sending a message to Jake Paul and Nikisa Badarian. We have that video and we could play it now.
Canelo in Riyadh in May, the big fight in the history of boxing. In September, then 2 more fights in 26. Don't miss with the line.
Terrifying.
I think I speak on behalf of all boxing fans. We want those 2 fights in 26 to be Benavidez and Bivol. If he gets by Terence Crawford, if he doesn't, there's going to be a rematch, no doubt about it. So there you have it. And Jake Paul went on social media as well and said some things about Canelo Alvarez, and he's obviously very upset. You could see it here, and put those those AI pictures. Here's the part that no one is talking about right now. And I'll drop this and I'll let you guys talk about UFC 312. I do believe that there is a sort of deeper struggle here. And the struggle dates back to MVP, Jake Paul, and Nikisa Badarian's relationship or lack thereof with TKO and specifically the UFC. It's very clear that there's a great relationship between Riyadh Season, TKO, the UFC, WWE. You saw a picture last week, Nick Khan, president of WWE, Dana White, Turki Alalshikh, all in Riyadh, right? And I do believe that the entities involved did not want the guy that they're about to invest a lot of money in to have a mega fight with Jake Paul before their mega fight. And so I believe that there were these two forces at play, and ultimately Canelo Alvarez decided, I'm going to go with these guys. And by the way, the reporting of the information May 3rd coming out yesterday, I don't think was coincidence, in the sense that perhaps there was a little litmus test being done there, because you see, once that story came out, and look at ESPN's reporting, they said it was all but done, right? How did it go from all but done to a change of heart? No, putting it out there to maybe try to get to see, how the public would react to it. And let's be honest, the public said, we don't want this. The public said, we want Benavidez. The public said, we want Crawford. We want Canelo to still be in the serious fight business, for lack of a better word. That's how they view those fights, as opposed to a Jake Paul fight. And I think the Jake Paul fight could still happen for Canelo in 2-3 years. I think he could choose to. It's still there. And I think, Jake would obviously still explore that. But I think he saw that stuff. They upped the ante. I wouldn't be surprised if TKO is involved in the promotion for the upcoming fight in September. We know they want to get into the boxing business. There's been talks of them really trying to launch this in the fall with Turkey. This is all out there. The New York Times has reported it. And so in the end, they won this war. It was waged on the sort of boxing battlefields, and it came to a head last night. And it seems like now Jake Paul is going to have to look in a different direction. The big question is, what direction is that? Tommy Fury can't travel to the United States unless this current presidential regime changes that. And I don't think he wants to explore, influencer fights or MMA fights or KSI fights. And so he had a massive, massive Canelo fight. And in the end, Canelo said, once again, payday, payday. And they ended up delivering the payday.
Wow, that is quite a lot of information you've given us there. Thank you so much, Ariel. I wanted to ask though, you mentioned MVP. They didn't care about the situation, right? They would have happily allowed him sign this deal with Riyadh season as long as the Jake Paul one goes ahead. You mentioned Riyadh season. They had an issue with it. You then mentioned later on about TKO and their relationship or potential relationship with Turki Alalshikh and Nick Khan and things like that. What do you think the reason Riyadh season were so against the Jake Paul Canelo fight happening? Did they think it was going to delegitimize Canelo, one of the greatest of his generation, to fight Jake Paul, or do you think it's because of this relationship that they have with TKO and their long history with Jake Paul?
Turkey has been quite he's been quite transparent about the fact that he doesn't love these fights. He doesn't like the influencer fights. He has said this several times. Remember when they did the Jake Paul Tommy Fury fight? He wasn't really involved in that one. That was kind of him really getting involved. It really all started, of course, with the Tyson Fury Francis Ngannou fight. And so you saw last night. What did he say? Canelo fights real fighters, something to that effect. That's obviously talking about Jake Paul. And so he's not dabbling in this world. There are no influencer fights. There are no crossover fights on the Riyadh season cards, whether they're in America or in Saudi Arabia. And I think he really wants to be in business with Canelo. He's a big, he's an old school boxing fan. He's an old school boxing fan, and he doesn't love the idea of being involved in this type of in this type of fights. And I think that he had an issue, and I don't think he's wrong for it, saying like, look, we're going to pay you a ton of money. Like, let's do a deal where you're fighting under our umbrella, under our banner, representing what we're representing, and you're not doing this mega fight first. Not because I think he thinks that he's going to lose to Jake Paul or anything like that, but you could slip on a banana peel and tear your ACL or turn an ankle or God knows what. But also, I think that there's a part of them that we definitely know that the TKO side doesn't like MVP. We know that for a fact, yes. Right? I think for Turkey himself, I don't think there's a beef with MVP, but I think like he wanted to win this battle, and he ultimately did. And winning the battle meant, Jake, you don't get this fight. We got our man. He's going to fight in Riyadh on Cinco de Mayo weekend, and then he fights in Las Vegas in September, and then we see what happens after that.
It feels like a very public defeat for Jake Paul, and you can see that he's out here posting the AI image of Canelo Alvarez on his knees, the MVP statement, which we've already put up. I feel like this isn't going to be the last we hear of this. It's also a massive win, it feels, for Turki Alalshikh, right? Like he keeps talking about the line, don't mess with the line.
Yeah.
He sees himself as, I guess, the king of the jungle, or so to speak. Do you expect that we're going to hear more from Jake Paul on this? Can he respond, or is this simply Turki Alalshikh showing like, I'm the man now? You can't play these big boy games, essentially.
So I'll say this, and then I want to pass it over to Ben and Shaheen so you guys can focus on UFC 312. Yes, if we're scoring this battle, yeah, it's a 10-9 round, right? It's a 30-27 or whatever it is, because he got his guy, and ultimately Jake did not get the fight. I would say that there's a bit of a moral victory for the MVP side, if only that a year ago, 2 years ago, Canelo and his team were laughing at the notion of even the question, you know, like we went through the footage, like he would laugh it off. I think there's even a time where our good pal Donna Corby is asking him, and he's just like, come on, guys, you know what I mean? Like, this is not a real thing. And so the fact that they were there, you know, 11th hour or not, red zone or not, goal line or whatever the hell analogy you want to use, the fact that this was an active negotiation, a real thing, is some sort of acknowledgement that they've made it this far, right? But yes, in the end, he does not have a fight in May against Canelo. It would have been a huge deal. It would have made a ton of money. We can have the argument all day, which fight generates more interest. You know, I said it on the show earlier this week. Like, my kids know who Jake Paul is. They don't know who Terence Crawford is. So, but that you know, it's just a different game. But ultimately, yes, Turki gets his guy. He says, "Don't mess with the lion." And this is why, once again, I say, as far as all combat sports are concerned, right now, as a journalist, there is no more fascinating world than the world of boxing. This cannot exist in MMA or pro wrestling. It does not exist. It doesn't exist in kickboxing, in jiu-jitsu. It's a crazy thing. You have the biggest star making hundreds of millions of dollars involved in this tug of war, and then this relatively new player comes in, backed by this country, and then also you have the TKO involvement, and you have Jake and Nikisa and like all this stuff, not to mention all the other wackiness going on. And how about this? And I'll leave it at this. April 26th, we're going to get Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank. Then we're going to get supposedly a potential Times Square fight 6 days later, where Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia are fighting on the same card in the middle of Times Square. Wow. The next day, we were supposed to get Jake Paul versus Canelo. Now we're getting Canelo over in Riyadh. That's all in the span of 7 days, not to mention all the other Meshugas that is coming our way. It's a crazy time. I love it. And God bless all the players involved. Thank you for the entertainment.
God bless you, Ariel Helwani. That was great stuff. Check this kid out, Ariel Helwani. You heard him here first. He's got a big future. No, but thanks so much, Ariel. That's absolutely brilliant. Congratulations again, Josh Allen.
Thank you.
Fantastic to see. He was my MVP.
Thank you.
That team around him, absolutely horrific. But anyway, Ariel, we love you. Thanks very much. See you soon. Thank you for the info.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.